Excellent. I think we have everybody I was looking for.
Yeah, I think we're good. We have someone from all the groups, so.
Excellent.
Well, welcome. I forgot the attendees were there when I was sharing all of that because I can't see them on camera, but I see your names and I just want to welcome you all. Thank you so much to attending the Strive to Thrive session as part of the University of Oregon Undergraduate Research Symposium. This is a really awesome opportunity to showcase the work of these students and share our experience in Thrive together. So briefly, to share an introduction of who is Thrive and this group of students. So this is a group of students that are in an academic residential community. It's about nurturing a passion for healthy living. So these students live together in the residence hall and have been studying each term or spending time together in a class. Really, the intention of this is to build a healthy campus, and it's a fun approach to personal well-being, peer education, and community influence. They took a class in the fall about the science of happiness. We've been talking about behavior change, health promotion theories, and the students are exploring ways to make the best choices for themselves and build a sustainable, healthy community. This community is led by Physical Education and Recreation. My name is Chantel Russell. I'm the Associate Director of Physical Education. And we're striving to help the students become aware of their strengths and their challenges in multiple dimensions of wellness. This community was created so that they could support the research in guiding students to improve their lives in key areas of well-being that are within their control. The philosophy is that students will experience ways to prioritize their health and well-being, move toward and maintain healthy choices, and influence their peers in a purposeful and supportive cohort. So in the winter, we started to talk about what are some of their questions around well-being on campus and what are some of the things that they want to look into knowing more about. So that's how we came to these topics, and they'll share more about the background and how they ended up where they were. So hopefully you have some questions after the presentation. So each presentation, you heard this already, but will be a maximum of 12 minutes, and there will be some time afterwards for questions. You can write them into the chat. Leslie will help us work through those when we get there. And then after all 4 presentations, there is some additional time. So if you have additional questions or comments or just want to congratulate someone that you're watching, you're welcome to do so at that time. So without further ado, we are going to jump into the first group that is presenting, and they are presenting outdoor inclusion for Hispanic women.
Okay, hello everybody. My name is Yesenia Vargas, and these are my group members, Claire Daley, Ana Gastelu, and Mia Rivas. We are part of the Thrive Healthy Living academic community, and we are presenting on outdoor recreation inclusion for Hispanic women at the University of Oregon. Our research question is, what are the benefits of being in nature on well-being, and how can we make outdoor experiences more accessible to the female Hispanic community at the University of Oregon? We decided to focus on Hispanic women specifically because some of us in our group member have had experience, like personal experience in the outdoors as part of minority groups. And we noticed that there is a lack of Hispanic representation in the outdoors. And there's also just many benefits to being outdoors. So we just want to acknowledge those.
Okay, so there are many ideas about what the term outdoor recreation means, but professionals in the field typically define it as activities carried out in the outdoors and most commonly in natural spaces. So some examples are hiking, fishing, skiing, snowmobiling, and wildlife viewing, and outdoor recreation can also overlap with competitive outdoor activities like orienteering or ski racing. So some of the benefits of outdoor recreation are that outdoor recreation participation has been tied to improvement in overall mood, reduced stress levels, anxiety and depression levels. It also boosts self-esteem and improves quality of sleep. And outdoor outings also provide a unique space for community building and for students to connect over their experiences and interests. It also results in the development of skills like communication skills, leadership development, self-reflection, ability to trust others and to share decisions, and also problem-solving skills. And access to the outdoors is important because it can develop support for environmental issues like climate change by fostering a connection between people and nature. And it's also shown to increase memory retention and academic success as well. So the idea of outdoor recreation is heavily romanticized. What comes to mind is images of experienced, mainly white male explorers going on expeditions to remote wildernesses. And it's important to note that the demographic represented does not accurately reflect the general population. So according to a recent National Park Service survey, minorities make up roughly 20% of outdoor recreation participants, even though they account for nearly 40% of the US population. So green spaces seem natural and open, but in reality, they become very segregated through different barriers and factors such as the cost of outdoor related activities and equipment, the lack of representation in some outdoor focused media, and the distance that people have to travel to get to an open green space can all limit people's access to much of the outdoor experience. And we'll take a deeper dive into these barriers later on in the presentation. The outdoor program at the UO is making the outdoors more inclusive and accessible through their Redefining Outdoorsy initiative, which features a series of speakers to boost the voices of underrepresented communities in the outdoors. And the OP also hosts affinity trips in partnership with student organizations like the Latinx ARC and the Multicultural Center, and they're only open to students with a specific identity to help underrepresented groups get outside in a safe and inclusive environment.
So now, as Claire mentioned before, this is our typical representation of people that participate in outdoor activities. They're mostly white and usually male, and we see this type of representation in ads for anything that has to do with outdoor activities. And the effect that this representation might have on people is that it might influence the way people think about these activities, and therefore some people might just grow up with the idea that they have to fit into this stereotype, or else they're just not meant to be an outdoorsy person. And that is why the idea of the outdoors might be kind of intimidating sometimes, which is another reason why some people might not even want to try to get into outdoor activities when they're in college.
So what my group has come up with is if there's more inclusion promotion strategies within our outdoor oriented programs on campus and increased Hispanic representations and leadership positions in the outdoor events, more people who identify as a part of this community will be more inclined to take part.
Okay, as Claire mentioned, the UO outdoor program has many events that are specific to minorities, but they still lack diversity. So from an interview with an employee at the outdoor program, we learned that there's only one Hispanic woman working in the OP, and she's working an office job. Minorities make up about 40%, as we can see from this data provided by Brian Clark, the assistant director with the Office in Research Assessment and Student Life, and some more data from the outdoor program, that only about 40% of the UO population is minorities, while about 30% make up the OP population. Some more data that we have shows that there's only about 4.5% that female Hispanic that participate in the UO outdoor program.
So these people presented up here today were where we took part of a Redefined Outdoors Summit talk, as well as we went to interview 2 outdoor program staff members. So the first person, Mercy Muffin, they were a speaker at the Outdoor Summit who mentioned an acronym that stuck with me. It was called PACK, P-A-C-K. What it stands for was prevention, minimizing it, action, addressing it, care, and talk about it and give them support, knowledge after an accident happens and what we can do. With this acronym, we can apply this during outdoor activities, which can play a big role, especially for those who are first timers when going to do outdoor activities. As for Sam Stroich and Margaret Hoff, they are both staff members of the outdoor program. Margaret Hoff is the director of the outdoor program, while Sam Stroich is the assistant director of the outdoor program. They have realized that the majority of the outdoorsy is the typical stereotypical young white male. Thus, to combat this, Margaret Hoff is the first woman to hold the director position in the outdoor program. While this is a small step in trying to see how there are women taking on leadership roles in the outdoor program. In addition, Margaret and Sam have tried to connect with different Hispanic/Latinx groups/clubs across the University of Oregon campus to create events for students that identify as Hispanic to participate more in outdoorsy program events. As for Jose Gonzalez, he is a speaker at the Outdoorsy Summit, and he discussed how Hispanic community has a different terminology when it comes to outdoor activities such as hiking versus walking, and how they can view outdoor spaces in a hostile perspective due to childhood trauma or events that happen. Thus, they could create fear in trying to participate in outdoor activities, especially when they're out in college.
So we identified several barriers when it comes to minorities participating in outdoor activities on campus. The first one being that there's a lack of knowledge, which means that people sometimes find out about the events after they happen. There's also a lack of inclusion in the promotion, which means that there are not enough pictures of minorities in the outdoors, which might lead some people to think that these events are not made for them. There are also some cultural differences because not all cultures are interested in the same things, and this might be due to their personal history, which might affect the way they view the outdoors. And at the same time, this is possibly linked to negative perspectives that might come from negative experiences and which might eventually lead them to fear for their personal safety. So these are some personal stories that we wanted to share about some women that are participating in outdoor communities. So Margarita Vargas Patron, she saw outdoors as being a white person thing, since it requires having to buy equipment, so for like camping or skiing, and her family just didn't have that growing up. She didn't have enough money to like buy all that stuff. The first time she experienced being outdoors was through a school trip when she went camping, and then she realized how much she loved outdoors, and it like brought her back to her cultural background. Candace Gonzalez is a avid trail runner now, and she grew up being outdoors, but she lost that connection when she moved to the city and went to college. So she decided to do trail running a little bit after college, but she was intimidating at first because it felt unwelcoming to her because there wasn't many people that looked like her in outdoor events. And we just wanted to share these stories to show that like Hispanic women can enjoy the outdoors, but there are many reasons to why they just don't, because there's all these barriers. So we came up with several possible solutions, and for example, the first 4 we think might help provide support because it helps create a sense of community, since people who have similar experiences usually help each other out, and they might even serve as role models and therefore help inspire each other. And it's always less scary to face something new when other people who relate to your struggles are there with you. We should also consider having more diverse marketing, because while we cannot change ads worldwide, we can make marketing in our school more inclusive and therefore show more diversity. And we could also try to learn more about student backgrounds, because this might help us understand why there's a lack of participation and therefore help create events that are more focused on what these minority groups want or feel comfortable with.
Thus, what we concluded as a group is by creating more diverse, equitable, and inclusive spaces in the university outdoor program, students can enhance their cognitive and interpersonal skills, increase their self-esteem, and be welcome different cultural standpoints. Thank you.
Sorry, I have to unmute and clap. Thank you very
know.
much. That was awesome. So attendees, please feel free to use the Q&A button to type in any questions you might have for this group. Or panelists, I don't know that you have the ability to use the Q&A, but you can also, panelists, if you have a question, you can put your question into the chat. Or panelists, you can also unmute yourself and ask as well. I guess I have a question for the group, if that's all right. I was just wondering, what was the most surprising thing that you learned when you were working on this project?
You're still muted, Anna.
I think something that I found really fascinating was that just like seeing like how in leadership roles, like when I did the interview with like the outdoor program, I like there's just like the one female Hispanic and you know, she's working in the office job. She's not actually like, you know, taking charge of like hiking trips and stuff like that. And so that just causes like more like Hispanic women or like students that identify as Hispanic to just see like, oh, it's all being led by like, you know, like a white male or, and just like, yeah, just like the lack of leadership.
Did doing this project make you want to like go after some of those positions yourself?
I feel like, yeah, I would definitely love to go more into like the leadership roles just to like show a new position, you know, that like minorities are also part of the UO, so they need to like participate more. And like even just going to like a simple trip, just like showing like representing like the minority groups, I feel like that's very important to just like start it off with and then, you know, just build up that leadership position.
Do you think there's a role for students to step up into like a leadership type, like either leading a specific expedition role or kind of like a student led position? Does that kind of position exist here at UO? I have no idea.
Yeah, so there are some leadership roles for students through leading trips. For example, like you can sign up to be a trip initiator through the outdoor program to initiate your own trip. That requires some training though, and you also have to get a van certification, but it's pretty easy to get trained for that and to develop your own trips. Yeah.
Well, thank you, group one. You kicked us off, really strong start, and you nailed it on the 12 minutes. Good job.
Yeah.
So we will jump right into group number two, the effects of the use of cannabis on college students' well-being.
Hello. Hello, my name is Julia Hibbard, and I'm here with my group mates, Cali and Malcolm. We are first years here at the U of O, and we are part of the Thrive Arc. Our project is on the effects of cannabis and on the wellness of college students.
All right, so there we go. Okay, so the reason why we chose to do this project was because each of us have a unique experience and history behind the use of cannabis, whether it be our family members or just friends that we know. We have a connection to cannabis in one way, shape, or form. And we're interested in this topic because, and the specific effects of well-being on college students, because we're college students, and as we're going through this Thrive Arc, we're learning about a bunch of different dimensions of wellness that are super important. And so we're just interested in seeing the connections and how it can really affect us and our overall well-being. Okay, so cannabis, also known as marijuana or weed, is a very controversial substance and has been illegal for decades and only entering legality recently. Thus, there's been a minuscule amount of research on the effects of it on well-being because studies were not being funded or were heavily biased due to the general negative view of the drug. This bias is evident in the fact that most studies before the 2010s were only looking at the negative effects of the drug, such as the rate of depression. However, since Oregon has legalized recreational use of the drug in 2016, with many other states following, there's been a large increase in cannabis use. For example, when talking to Alexis Dracos, the coordinator here of substance abuse prevention, she recommended an article, Legalized Cannabis Did Little to Change Students' Use, by Tobin Klinger and Lewis Taylor. They mentioned how students have reported no difference in cannabis usage since legalization. And with this, it kind of leaves us one question, which is, how is this affecting the well-being of college students? Our hypothesis is that although students will find an increase in well-being over a short period of time, the long-term effects of habitually using cannabis are detrimental to well-being. The reason why we chose to investigate this was due to the fact that the University of Oregon has a smoke-free campus, which means no cannabis is permitted. Now, we do go over the safe use of cannabis smoking as a prevention module in the first few weeks of school, but there still is a little lack of perspective that students know regarding the short-term effects to one's wellness while using cannabis. This is why we wanted to do this research and really dig into the true effects and hopefully provide you guys more information and knowledge you guys didn't know before.
So after looking at various studies about how cannabis use affects well-being, we found some pretty interesting results. For instance, males on average use more cannabis than females, and there is a general association between lower GPA and higher cannabis use. Now, this raises the question of, what do you consider well-being? If you want to argue that GPA is a large part of educational well-being, then there is a correlation between high cannabis use and poor well-being. This is because cannabis is said to cause lower GPAs in users. We think that we need to look for a correlation, but not necessarily a causation between lower GPAs and cannabis use, because there could be a third variable that we just don't know about. A study by Mark Holder and J.D. Allen called Marijuana Use and Wellbeing in University Students surveyed 570 college students asking about their wellness and substance habits. It cites that cannabis users exhibit lower agreeableness and conscientiousness and higher openness. Now, does this mean that cannabis causes people to be less agreeable and have less of a drive to do things? Or does it mean that people who have less drive and are less agreeable use more cannabis? There's no way of telling as of now. There is a correlation between lower levels of wellness with worse substance habits, but not necessarily a causation.
Frequency of use does not seem to correlate with well-being as found with the Mark Allen study. However, in a study called life satisfaction and cannabis use, a study on young adults, there's evidence that there is a higher frequency of use in people that live alone or without their family. Thusly, college students. This is an interesting find because it may demonstrate that the drug itself doesn't necessarily affect the well-being of individuals. This is because individuals that had a high frequency in use did not differ that much from people that didn't use as much. This supports the idea that that it is more contingent on the person's reaction to the drug than the drug itself. In the Mark Allen study, they found that people who have negative consequences with cannabis will experience a negative dip in their well-being. Thus, if you have a bad time while you're under the influence of cannabis, you are more likely to exhibit negative consequences on well-being. Now, another problem with assessing the effect on well-being that cannabis has is addressing what well-being is. Do you measure it through happiness? Is well-being having a balanced life? The Allen study quantified well-being through the Oxford Happiness Questionnaire, a questionnaire that asks students 29 questions to assess students' happiness. But even in the study, they admit this is a controversial way of measuring wellness. The main issue is that wellness is heavily based on perspective. Different cultures and societies value things in life more. Many Americans would argue that if you make a lot of money, but you get little sleep and are unhealthy, that your wellness is decent. If you're happy and you make a good amount of money. Of course, there's the 8 dimensions of wellness that Thrive has taught me: emotional, physical, occupational, social, spiritual, intellectual, environmental, and financial. But it's hard to find studies that look at that look at wellness in this multidimensional way, rather just a measurement of happiness. If we are going to be able to actually analyze the effects of cannabis on a person as detailed as possible, we are going to need a widely accepted definition of wellness.
Okay. There's still so much more that we can learn and think about regarding our wellness and the use of cannabis. Our group has come to a conclusion that our hypothesis did not match our findings. There is a correlation, which is not the same thing as causation of poor well-being. We found that we need more experimental data on the effects of cannabis because most studies consist of data from surveys, which do not allow us to draw conclusions about causation. In addition, we need longitudinal studies to see how it affects well-being over time. Lastly, we must emphasize that there's a long-standing negative bias and propaganda toward the use of cannabis, which has led to missed opportunities to rigorously study the effects.
Finally, how will this information be helpful to the UO? We think having the knowledge and longitudinal data on cannabis use and student well-being will help school administrators and faculty make better decisions. Although the UO does have the prevention modules that we do at the beginning of our year, our group came up with a few future directions. Them being more education on the correlations of negative effects of cannabis use. How we could implement that information is through things like mandatory workshops and informational flyers. The university needs more scientific research to ensure and communicate safe use. We think that it will lead to having a safer and more productive campus. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Nice work. We'll open it up again if anyone has questions through the Q&A, the chat.
So I know you said that the university is a smoke-free campus, which means like no smoking of anything on campus, right? Do they have any like official like policy for what enrolled students do kind of on their own time off campus? I admit I have no idea.
They do not specifically, and while they don't encourage the use of cannabis, there has been, I guess, only anecdotal stories of students being suggested to use it off campus. But really, the only thing that I've heard faculty take a stand on is just nothing on campus.
On campus. Mm-hmm.
We won't make you sit here too long. If others have questions, they can come up at the end as well. I'll have some big broad questions for you at that time too. So nice job. You all did great.
Thank you.
Moving on to group 3. We have the impacts of access to nutritional information on college students.
All right. Hello. So our project is on the impact of having access to nutritional information for college students. I'm Santino Gentile. This is Cheyenne, Bissonnette. Here's Eleanor, and Alana.
So when we were thinking about nutritional information, we first started looking at nutritional facts. So this is put on all packaging, all packaged food, and it's required by the FDA. And so these nutritional facts tell us some information about what's in the food that we're eating that's packaged at least. And some of the things that nutritional facts tell us are micronutrients, so vitamins and minerals that's in the food we eat, and also macronutrients, so carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. And then looking at these, we wanted to understand how having access to this information would impact us as consumers, and especially as college students. So we're looking at the impacts of the nutritional information on us, the impacts of having access to that information that's provided in nutritional facts.
So for our research, we did a meta-analysis of a couple different people who have already done similar research to these studies at other universities and other research facilities, just based on or looking at the findings of what knowing what nutritional information has on your health and benefits. So one of the first studies we looked at was from the Biomed Central Public Health Center, and they mainly just found that those who had more nutritional knowledge and nutritional literacy about the food that they were eating had less cholesterol and fat intake in their diets. Another study we looked at from Oxford found that a lot of different health diseases, including like cardiovascular diseases and type 2 diabetes, which can lead to further diseases such as Alzheimer's, which develops later in age, has a correlation with what food you're eating and how that affects you. And then one of the last studies we looked at was from the International Life Sciences Institute, and it found that eating a Mediterranean diet, which is a lot of high monosaturated fats, a lot of vegetables and fruits, and more plant-based, and then lower levels of like red meat and refined grains and sugars, shows that there's lower risk of cognitive impairment later in life, and just overall gives you better health benefits later. And overall, we found that from all these studies, knowing or having good nutritional literacy and just a general awareness of what you're eating benefits your health in the long run.
Okay, so now why does this all matter to us? Because we live and eat at the University of Oregon. Now I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what U.S. access currently looks like. Right now, students are only given access to dining sheets at dining venues, but you have to ask for these dining sheets, and they only include information on allergies such as like gluten, or if there's fish there, or the peanuts. We also have information concerning meal point plans, like how many points we can have each week, but that doesn't really offer any valuable nutritional information. We also have access to the DuckNuts, which is a program in the EMU, which includes links to help with food prep. However, that only really affects students who are living off campus or have the capabilities to cook their own food, and many many residence halls do not even have kitchens. One thing that is available to students though is a nutritional calculator that UO created in 2011. However, this nutritional calculator is extremely out of date. It was created in 2011 and was not finished. As a result, not all dining venues that are currently at UO are listed, and is extremely inaccurate because there's only limited meal item choices. And as I said before, it was created in 2011. Now, Santino is just gonna give you a bit more of a rundown on this calculator.
So this is what initially comes up when you search up the UO nutrition calculator. It's kind of misleading because there's the second link, which makes it look like it was updated, and well, when it was launched, it looks like it was actually filled out, but it wasn't. And then if you the nutrition calculator, the actual link for the nutrition calculator, it leads just to the incomplete calculator, and it doesn't really, it's never really seems to have been updated. It doesn't have any of the newer dining venues. So this is an example of like what the nutrition calculator shows if you're trying to have dinner. It only shows Barnhart, Carson, Doug's Bistro, the Freshwater Market, and the Fresh Market Cafe. Here's a list of all the restaurants that it's missing that are available to students, which is longer than the list they actually have. And a lot of these are newer restaurants that weren't out in 2011, but if you look at the bottom corner, it says that they were updated. It says that it was updated in 2022, which is this current year, and yet it has none of these restaurants, and even the restaurants that it does have are complete. So here's an example of like some of the options that they have. This is a build your own bowl for the that they have on the nutrition calculator. It says there's no ingredients, and you can't add any, and so it doesn't give you any nutrition. And this is one of the only options offered for this restaurant.
So since we're living here at UO, one option for getting food is through dining halls, and as Santino just showed you, the nutritional calculator, and that's all the information that we have available to us about the food, or about the nutrients that's in the food that we eat at dining halls. But another option is packaged food. The university has specific packaged food that they sell, and so we looked at what a Trader Joe's packaged salad looks like. So as you can see, this is some pictures of my favorite salad from Trader Joe's. The nutritional facts are easily accessible. You can read them. They're detailed. They list all of the ingredients. And then I looked at what our packaged salads look like from UO, and this is what they look like. They don't have a lot of nutritional information. They don't have any nutritional facts. It's only listed ingredients, and the label's partially cut off, so you can't even see all of the ingredients. So in thinking about these flaws where we don't have all of this access to this information, we thought about who could be impacted by change. We realized that there are people who have diabetes who live on campus and eat at these dining halls that need access to this information. Athletes, we're a D1 school, and our athletes aren't having access to the information about what's in their food. And that also includes people who work out, people who have dietary restrictions like vegans, vegetarians, and pescatarians, people who are interested in having more information and detailed information about what they eat. And we also think the University of Oregon as a whole could really benefit from improving these resources because it's a home environment. We're living here and we don't have a lot of control over our life right now in like the structure of it. And so this is one thing that UO really has power over in giving us this information, and it would really help them have a better reputation and make us feel at home in this environment.
So just a personal experience, as Alana mentioned, there are a bunch of different people that could benefit from having nutritional information. I'm a type 1 diabetic. I got diagnosed at school, my first term here, right before Halloween. And I had initially looked up on UO and just to see if they had a nutritional calculator, because knowing how many carbs and how many protein or grams of protein I'm eating is essential to my health. And I was super excited when I first saw it, when it popped up, UO Nutrition Calculator, and then I clicked on it, looked through the options, and was immediately disappointed by just the lack of information and the overall it just was not helpful to me whatsoever. I was able to get around it because I found a third-party app that gives me a general knowledge of information, but it's still not as accurate as it could be, saying that the nutrition calculator provided by UO would give me the exact carb amount of the food that they're providing instead of having to guesstimate and do the work myself. Just a couple other examples. Elle, as a student worker, has no idea where any of these resources are because there's a lack of resources to even give information about. They're also not taught about any, like when they go through training, they don't give them any information about that. Alana is a vegetarian. They have no information as to a lot of the ingredients that's in the food. They had an interaction with the veggie rolls that were here on campus, and they had no idea that those even had any, that they didn't have meat in them until third quarter. And Santino works out, and he likes to know how many grams of protein he's getting to build muscle and how much fat he's eating. So it, incorporates into everyone's personal lives and would really be beneficial to a lot of students knowing what food we're intaking and what our nutritional information is. And overall, we had a couple ideas for the University of Oregon and how it could change. And the first being updating the nutritional calculator, getting it to where all the restaurants that we currently have on campus are on the nutritional calculator and all the information is up to date and accurate. That would help immensely. And then also just students who do want to know this information, having more of a priority when they reach out and responding. We had a couple issues with that, but there are a couple classes on campus that offer nutritional literacy, but they're not well advertised or talked about. And overall, yeah.
Just a quick conclusion. We think that change should be implemented to benefit students and everyone who uses dining halls across campus. And we want to just reiterate that a lack of awareness and access leads to health and medical implications. So it's important to maintain a healthy balance to improve all of our qualities of life. Thank you so much for listening to us.
Thank you all. That was awesome.
Thank you. Great job. Oh, go ahead, Leslie.
I was just gonna say, I am fully in favor. I would love to see all this information be available to everyone. I think this is a great idea. Biased because I have some dietary restrictions myself, so I know the struggle that it can be to find things that you can eat. So yes. It's also nice to see the list of restaurants on campus. I had no idea about all these places to eat, so I'm gonna have to go try them out. Which restaurants would you recommend me go to?
My favorite personally is the pasta global bowls on GSA. The mac and cheese killer mac with some bacon is pretty good.
A lot of the unnamed menus are really good too. None of those are listed.
I'm a personal advocate for Bullseye. It has a lot of different options, and burritos can't be too bad.
We've also been fortunate as a community to do some community dinners together where they've prepared their own food and made grocery lists and had the social aspect of cooking together, which from my perspective, I won't speak for them, but is a great opportunity to enjoy all of the aspects of food, which I think gets taken away when you live on campus. Although eating is important, being part of the process is also really awesome.
Yeah, I guess so my question for you as students regularly going to these places, if this information were to be made available, would you prefer it on like an app or the website versus like just present like on the menu board or like next to the thing that you're purchasing?
I think on an app would probably work better because some students don't need to know or don't want to know the nutritional information. And that can actually hurt their health instead of benefit it. So I think the students that want to make that extra effort to reach out and make that extra step to get the information are the ones that would have access to it. So through an app would probably work best.
I think apps also increase accessibility for students with disabilities, as well as incoming students. And if you're trying to figure out what you want to eat when you're not in person, because we often order through Grubhub as well.
Ah, yes. Sorry, I'm old. I forget about Grubhub.
It's relative, Leslie. I just want to also give a shout out. Looks like some family members were here who gave some props to all of you for presenting. So nice job. And thanks for inviting. All right, let's jump into our last presentation and we can expand our discussion. So to close us out today, we have personal training and the students at U of O.
Okay, so I'm Olivia, and my group members are Karl and Jackson. We are part of Thrive, our gonna be our first years here on campus. We are doing our research project about personal training because we are students who typically go to the gym, and then 2 of us are working towards a career in physical therapy, and all of us had experience in the past with a personal trainer. So our topic is personal training and its effects on University of Oregon students. And then our hypothesis is if students work with personal trainers, then their overall wellness will improve because working with a personal trainer offers a more structured workout plan for people who are inexperienced or uncomfortable at the gym, less risk of injury, and guidance to proper nutrition.
For how personal trainers work with students, they work by creating workout and diet plans oriented towards clients, and they support the mental growth of clients through encouragement. Diet plans focus on training goals and what they wish to achieve, whether bulking or cutting. The protein, carbs, etc. are all measured out by a trainer. This is to help make sure that the results are oriented towards overall goals. Trainers also work as workout partners or someone to hold your hand at first, let's say. Someone who's inexperienced has to become familiar with the gym so they can best use the equipment and best do the exercises. Doing this helps to create a space that encourages growth, which helps long-term feelings about going to the gym. A quote by Cindy Maynard is that the good news is that a growing number of fitness clients are seeking to improve their sports performance by improving their diet. Clients should be made aware of different sports, for example, endurance events, power sports, and stop-and-go activities all call for different nutritional needs, and they all have different aspects that are needed to be met. When making these programs, some of the basic guidelines for protein and the diet plans, regardless of the sport your clients are involved in, their nutritional training program should include these basic components: adequate energy to maintain desirable body weight and replenish glycogen stores, enough protein to build and repair tissue, sufficient fluid to prevent dehydration, the proper amount of vitamins and minerals to prevent deficiencies. As a rule, it is recommended that athletes eat a high diet of carbohydrates and low in fat with adequate amounts of protein. The specific distribution of these macronutrients should be 60 to 70% carbohydrates, 10 to 15% protein, 20 to 30% fat, and these are from burning. And then our next slide. For our methods, we used scholarly articles and their data with relevance to our own subject to determine outcomes. Through interviews with personal trainers within the program here at University of Oregon, determine application on campus. Some benefits for University of Oregon students: they have increased ability to handle stress, increased exposure to the rec and its community. They introduce proper ways to orient gym or operate gym equipment. It also provides encouragement and support, as well as access to nutritional advice and advice on proper form. The rec is a community of those who are working to better themselves, and the introduction to the space can be provided by personal trainers. These skill allows for long-term improved health benefits from working out and having overall better level of ability to handle everyday stress. For the ability to manage stress, improvement is shown through testing of students who spent time playing volleyball and working out against students who didn't participate in these activities on a daily basis. Those who spent time exercising had a better ability to use the time they were managing in ways that they intended to, and for proper use. For mental health, physical therapists and trainers work in support of the mental health of those they are training. If and through the personal relationship that is created, goals and overall sites can be planned out and achieved. This growth works together in a similar way to a normal therapist, helps to support the mental health. Some of the interview data that we got for how personal trainers here at UO work is that there are some people who work as coordinators of fitness at University of Oregon, and they oversee personal trainers and all of the work that they do. This guy, Andy Karch, works as one of the heads of the department. He works for the PTs to help set goals for clients and how to schedule and fix up their plans. We also spoke to Guillermo Torres Sanchez, who is a PT for women's soccer and lacrosse. He is assigned to them, and for D1 sports, there's a trainer that splits their time between two different sports as they were assigned trainers for both teams. For example, soccer and lacrosse is what he would do. D1 sports are assigned trainers and have them readily available at practices, while club sports don't get assigned trainers. However, during games, a trainer is always present in case something happens. PTs have their own facilities here, and with lots of therapy machines to help support injuries and other issues that may arise, so that they don't have to go to other places or facilities. Additionally, paperwork comes, of course, with this role. There is a pretty, not equal amount, but there is a pretty hefty load of paperwork that goes in, as any kind of medical care has to be documented and shown on paper.
So our primary results. Overall, we found that personal training has a positive effect on the mental and physical health of students. Proper nutrition and workout plans make exercise more of an activity that's structured, as opposed to variable workouts that newcomers to the gym will do. For an example, when I was new to the gym, I would often have very unstructured workout plans that would just kind of be like, let's just say hit shoulders and hitting arms, and that wasn't very effective in muscle growth. Someone who is new to resistance training will have little to no idea of proper form as well, or accurate terminology, and just general knowledge about navigating the gym. Therefore, they're going to need guidance as to what workout splits they can do, and then specific dietary changes to promote nutrition. Like, for example, you can have like a caloric deficit, either caloric deficit or a caloric surplus, in order to build muscle or lose fat. And tutorials on form for compound exercises such as the barbell squat or bench press are also very effective at preventing injury.
Sorry, one moment.
Working out in general builds confidence. However, with the support and encouragement from a personal trainer, a client is able to achieve their goals quicker and more accurately, as opposed to doing it by themselves due to having a structured plan. Trainers get to act as as guides for those navigating the gym for the first time, and also work as aids to prevent injuries, as mentioned previously. And to summarize, using a personal trainer as a newcomer to exercise and fitness is a great way to achieve your individual body goals, increase your flexibility and your cardio, and prevent injury that comes with resistance training, and also improving your mental health. In addition, a personal trainer is also good for athletes. As an anecdotal example, when I was in high school, I had a personal trainer for cross country and soccer. that was able to help me improve my athleticism, flexibility, and cardio by using specialized exercises. One of the examples is I took with a personal trainer in cross country. He was able to take me from a 22-minute 5K time to a 18:03 PR. Sorry, one moment here. Slides. There you go. Yeah. Computer. So as students engage with personal trainers, they gain knowledge about exercise, access to a new space of growth, and their tolerance to stress is also going to go up. These are all aspects that are going to positively affect the mental health of students and their daily lives, as well as improving time management. Time with a trainer for people who are unfamiliar and uncomfortable with the gym is also going to support the growth of communities at the rec and at University of Oregon as a whole. And this in turn is going to might indirectly lead to increased GPAs by having better time management and feeling better about themselves. It's also been proven that working out makes your brain work better. I don't know according to what source, but and then the newfound confidence would indirectly lead to more participation in school events or clubs, and just general events on campus. And yeah. And then these are our sources.
Thank you so much. I have a question. Sorry, Chantel. Thinking about personal trainer versus a small group class, are there significant benefits to be had going for the personal trainer versus some working together in a larger group?
I would think each would have their own benefits. Like working out with a group would have the benefit of, it's like playing with a team, and that would overall boost your confidence, and it would motivate you to push harder in your workouts. It would be the same thing with having an individual personal trainer giving you encouragement, like pushing that last rep or something like that. It would just be like working out with a partner. I think both of those options are a lot better than working out by yourself. Is there any other questions?
Free.
Oh, you're good. What personal training resources are available? Now I'm asking for just personal. What personal training resources are available for faculty on campus?
A lot of this stuff is all inside the rec. For D1 stuff, they have their own assigned stuff, but then for faculty and for students, a lot of it's oriented through the rec and getting to sign up for special time there. In one of the slides, there's a link for that.
Cool.
Can you briefly describe the difference? I mean, you kind of used it interchangeably, but the difference between personal training versus a physical therapist, or you've even mentioned athletics, athletic training?
A physical trainer is more going to be on site and going to be helping with improvement of the sport itself and sport specific stuff, whereas a physical therapist is a part of the healing process, usually only after an injury.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good job, presenters. I'm hope you feel good and accomplished participating in your first undergraduate research symposium, and I hope not last. I hope you have more opportunities while you're on campus and or make more opportunities. But I want to open it up. If you all have any comments, if you're all willing to turn your cameras back on, it'd be awesome to just end seeing all of your faces. We won't be able to potentially highlight, but we could do gallery view so folks can be seen. And Leslie, you've been asking wonderful questions. So if you have others for the whole group as a whole, but I'm going to ask two broad questions. I'm wondering if folks could share what were some of the useful resources that you used in coming up with this work, and maybe things that you would suggest peers use, whether or not it's for the research symposium or other work they're doing on campus. and or what do you plan to continue using while you're here on campus? Resources that helped you with this project.
What really helped me throughout this is my psychology classes, actually, specifically Psych 301 about research methods. And I think using what you're learning in classes and applying it outside of that specific class has been very useful for this.
No. Can we get 2 more people to share? Sometimes putting a number on it will get you to talk.
I would say probably just like the library, like the online library that we went on the first few days in class when we were looking up different databases and whatnot.
So our librarians empowered you. You can do it independently through those searches, but also hopefully using our librarians. They are like experts on research, maybe not on individual topics, but they know how to help find information for you. Any others? One more.
A class that I found super useful was my nutritional anthropology class. I talked to my professor a lot about this project, and he kind of helped guide our steps.
I'm going to give a shout out to also Assure and Cure. Based on your assignments that you all attended office hours, it seemed like that was a really useful experience. And many of you said whether or not you were using it for the symposium, you would probably use them again for other projects that you're doing in class. So I just want to throw that back at you to hopefully stay connected with those resources. All right, I'm going to throw one more question at you. What would you tell other students or incoming Thrive students about this experience being involved in research and presenting at the symposium? Words of wisdom, and or now that you've done it, what would you share?
I found that a lot of the speakers that came in were very helpful, such as the financial advisors and the counselors that came in for classes in school, like guidance. Those were really helpful to me.
Yeah, I think another thing too is just like talking to like faculty and stuff was really like helpful, and they just like give you a lot of advice of how to like, you know, present better and how to like do research projects. And so that's just like very helpful. It just makes it seem like less stressful.
On that note, shout out to Brian Clark, who's also here, but who helped provide data and information and talk to us all about research on multiple occasions. So yes, faculty and staff on campus are here to support you, and they want to be curious with you. Obviously, Leslie being here today and asking you all so many questions, it's because students or faculty and staff care about you all. And we learn from you learning. So please engage with us and continue to do so on your time here. Let's get a couple more folks.
My biggest words of wisdom is just to embrace the community and really be open to new experiences and connecting with these people that you're gonna live with for the year, and just learning about people who are different from you.
Chantel already mentioned this, but I just wanted to give another shout out to Brian Clark, especially for helping with our project. So thank you.
How many of you are going to keep doing research and projects and maybe present again next year in some way? Yeah. I certainly hope so. That would be wonderful. And I want to encourage you all, as we wrap up our session, that the poster presentations are in the ballroom, and the keynote speaker is today at 4:30. And there's just a lot to be said for seeing your peers and or of various levels, not just first year or ARC students, but seeing their work and what's possible. It's really inspiring, and it can motivate you to explore some different ways to get involved on campus. So I hope you pop over to the EMU today, and or make sure you watch the YouTube channel. Jules and Taylor, their poster presentation will be available on the YouTube channel. So support your other student classmates by watching their work as well.
I have a question. When is this going to be available? Or is this segment going to be put online on the YouTube channel as well? Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Okay.
These are being recorded and will be available. So on the Symposium website, you can actually go to the various types of presentations. And so there's like a virtual oral presentations. I don't know the exact time. Kelly, you probably will know sooner than I will. But I'll share with you all, I'll share back on that, so that if you do want to share it with your family or friends, it is really cool for folks to see you in action and to be able to support you. All right. Well, without further ado, congratulations, you made it. This was awesome. Reminder, we will meet next week for a end of year celebration. So meet over in Justice Bean Hall Thursday at 4 o'clock.
And thank you all for sharing your amazing work with me and everyone in particular, but it was really great to hear about the research you've been doing this past term. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Leslie. Have a great afternoon, everybody.